The last hull sits in the yard. No ceremony, no champagne, no crowd gathered at the water's edge to watch it go in. Just a 124-foot aluminum shell, half-finished, going nowhere, in a yard that has gone quiet for the first time in half a century. The name on the hull says Broward. The name means something. It meant something when presidents wanted a yacht that could hold a meeting at sea. It meant something when the richest men in America wanted a vessel that could cross an ocean and still make 43 knots. It meant something when Fort Lauderdale was the undisputed yachting capital of the world. Broward Marine was the reason why. More than 300 custom yachts, delivered over 5 decades, aluminum hulls that outlasted the company that built them, still running charters in the Mediterranean, still turning heads in marinas from the Caribbean to the South Pacific. The boats survived. The shipyard did not. This is the story of how one Michigan mechanic on his honeymoon accidentally built America's greatest yacht yard, and how the thing he built proved impossible to hold on to. It is 1948. Frank Dennison is newly married and driving through Fort Lauderdale with his wife Gertrude when he sees it, a shipyard sitting empty on the new river. Doolies, basin and dry dock, a facility that spent the war building vessels for the military and then, when the war ended, simply stopped. The gates closed. The cranes went still. The river kept moving. Dennison is a Michigan boat technician. He has spent years buying boats on speculation, repairing them, reselling them, learning what makes a hull work and what makes it fail. He looks at Doolies and sees not an abandoned yard, but an opportunity so obvious it almost looks like a mistake. He buys it on the spot. On his honeymoon, Frank and Gertrude Dennison rename the facility Broward Marine, after the county that surrounds it, and they get to work. The early years are practical. The Korean War generates contracts. Broward builds minesweeper vessels under NATO. Commission, military-grade work that ranges from 144 to 173 feet. Serious tonnage for a yard that is just finding its footing. The work is demanding, and it pays well, and it teaches the yard something important: how to build large, how to manage complexity, how to hold tolerance on a vessel that is not a pleasure boat, but a working machine that cannot afford to fail. When the Korean War contracts dry up, Broward pivots. In 1953, the yard launches its first custom motor yacht, 53 feet of wood, designed by naval architect John Wells, christened Stormy III. It is not a military vessel. It is not built to sweep mines or carry troops. It is built to be beautiful, and it is. 5 years later, Harry Bloom, owner of Jim Beam Distilleries, commissions Broward to build him a 25-meter luxury yacht. Jonathan III arrives as a statement that a yard in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, built by a man from Michigan on the occasion of his honeymoon, can produce something worth the money of a man whose family name is on a bottle of bourbon in every bar in America. Word travels in the yachting world the way it always has, slowly, quietly, and then all at once. Frank Dennison, known to his craftsmen simply as Mr. D, has a philosophy that is not complicated. Build the boat right. Use the best materials. Hire people who care. Do not cut corners, because the client cannot see the corner you cut. The ocean will find it eventually. That philosophy costs more in the short term. It pays back in reputation, and reputation in the custom yacht business is everything. By the time the 1960s close, Broward Marine is no longer a secret. The 1970s change everything. Not just for Broward, for the entire industry. The recreational boating market is expanding in ways that would have seemed impossible a decade earlier. Wealth is flowing into South Florida. Fort Lauderdale is transforming from a modest coastal city into something genuinely glamorous, a place where serious money comes to be at sea. The marinas are filling. The chandleries are crowded. The Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show, which will eventually become the largest in-water boat show on Earth, is already drawing the kind of attention that makes builders stand up straight and sharpen their pencils. And Broward makes a decision that defines the next 3 decades. Wood is out. Aluminum is in. The shift seems technical. It is actually philosophical. Aluminum construction means lighter hulls. Lighter hulls mean better performance, more range, less fuel. It means structures that resist corrosion in salt water in ways that wood never could. It means the ability to build bigger without the weight penalty that stops a wooden vessel from moving the way its owner expects. The yard invests in the capability, builds out the expertise, and by the mid-1970s is running full production on an all-aluminum series of motor yachts that set a new standard for what an American-built luxury vessel can be. In 1973, Broward does something no one has done before. The 87-foot Even rolls out of the yard as the first turbine-powered private yacht ever built. Not diesel, turbine, the kind of power plant you find in military helicopters and fighter aircraft, transplanted into a yacht hull because Frank Dennison and his team looked at what was technically possible and then went further. The Yvonne is not a production boat. It is a proof of concept that Broward will go wherever the engineering leads, regardless of whether the destination has a precedent. The 1980s arrive, and Fort Lauderdale is at the center of something. The city is flush. The glamour is real. The television show Miami Vice runs from 1984 to 1990, and for those 6 years it broadcasts a specific image of South Florida to the world. Fast boats, white suits, warm water, the kind of lifestyle that looks like freedom and costs accordingly. The intracoastal waterway becomes a stage. The boats on it are the props, and the boats that matter most are the big aluminum ones built on the New River. In 1983, Broward launches the Jervett, 92 feet, the world's first yacht equipped with triple diesel engines. 3 engines where every other builder put 1 or 2, because the Jervett owner wanted performance that the existing configurations could not deliver, and Broward figured out how to deliver it. The triple engine configuration becomes a signature. The yard builds it into yacht after yacht through the decade, refining the system with every hull, extracting more speed, more efficiency, better handling. Then comes the Britannia, 112 feet, triple Detroit diesels, a top speed of 43 knots in a vessel that weighs what large vessels weigh. The kind of performance that makes European builders uncomfortable and American owners deeply satisfied. 43 knots is not a boat. 43 knots in something 112 feet long is a statement that the biggest yard in the yachting capital of the world can do things nobody else is doing. Country music star Barbara Mandrell commissions hull number 179, the Lady Encore, 99 feet, delivered in 1982. Her name stays in the Broward registry, alongside oil executives, corporate dynasties, shipping heirs, real estate fortunes. The ledger of American wealth in the Reagan era reads, like a Broward delivery schedule. The yard is not chasing clients. The clients are finding their way to the New River. Gertrude Dennison does something quietly revolutionary during this period. She co-founds Yacht Interiors as a standalone discipline. The idea that the interior of a yacht deserves the same professional design attention as the hull that carries it. The country kitchens, the custom galleys, the his and her masterheads that become Broward signatures. These are her contribution. The recognition that the people who buy these vessels live aboard them, entertain aboard them, want spaces that feel like homes rather than cabins. The interior is not an afterthought. It is half the boat. By the early 1990s, Broward is completing the Pegasus, 130 feet, triple engine, tri-deck, and the Bubba II, at 156 feet, the largest aluminum vessel built in the United States at that moment. Over 300 custom yachts have left the yard. The slogan runs in the trade press and on the lips of brokers from Newport to Nassau. It must be a Broward. For a stretch of years that feels, in retrospect, like it should have lasted longer, that slogan is simply true. Every story about a great thing ending has a moment where you can see it coming if you know where to. At Broward Marine, the signals are there in the 1990s, quiet enough to ignore, obvious enough in hindsight to be painful. The European yards are getting serious. The Dutch and Italian builders have been building super yachts for wealthy clients since before Broward poured its first hull. But for decades, the American market stayed American. Geography helped. So did chauvinism. So did the particular kind of loyalty that forms between a customer and a builder who delivers exactly what he promised, at a price that didn't require renegotiation. But the world is getting smaller. European brokers are working harder in American ports. The distinction between an American-built vessel and a Dutch-built vessel, once obvious in the quality comparison favoring Broward, is narrowing. European yards are learning the aluminum construction techniques that were once Broward's competitive edge. They are matching the customization, they are offering the interiors, and they are doing it at yards that are larger, better capitalized, and supported by governments that understand the marine industry as a strategic asset. Frank Dennison built the yard on personal relationships, personal standards, and a personal commitment to the product that is extremely difficult to institutionalize. The yard grows, the staff expands, the reputation carries forward. But the particular quality that made Broward is not a system. It is a person. And persons are not permanent. In 1999, Frank Dennison sells Broward Marine to Glenn Straub, a Florida real estate developer. The transaction is significant not just because it changes ownership, but because it signals the end of the founding era. Legal disputes follow, including a criminal contempt conviction stemming from a conflict over an unfinished hull. The yard does not collapse, but it buckles. In 2004 and 2005, Tom Lewis acquires the business, a real estate developer who understands luxury goods and genuinely loves boats. Lewis sees in the Broward name something worth saving. He moves the operation to a 10-acre yard in Dania Beach with a 12-foot deep marina and direct Atlantic access. He renames it Broward Yachts. He commissions new designs, including the 120-foot wide-body motor yacht, which debuts at the Plos Miami Yacht and Brokerage Show, and generates the kind of attention that makes people believe the old name has new life in it. For a moment, it seems like it might. It is 2008. The financial system is collapsing. The credit markets are seizing. The people who buy custom 120-foot yachts are not immune to what is happening on Wall Street. The phone calls stop coming. The deposits stop arriving. The clients who were mid-build start calling their lawyers instead of their brokers. Hull number 601, the 120-foot flagship of the new Broward, has launched but not sold. Hull number 603 is mid-construction when the owner stops making payments. Broward begins funding the build-out of its own operating cash, betting that the market will turn, that the phone will ring, that someone with the right kind of money will come down to Dania Beach and see what 60 years of American craftsmanship looks like when it's floating in front of you. The bet doesn't pay. Tom Lewis lays off 30 employees, then production stops altogether. The yard goes quiet in a way it has not gone quiet since the day Frank Dennison first walked through Dooley's Gate. The 2008 financial crisis does not kill Broward Marine. That is the important thing to understand. The crisis is the wave that hits a structure already under stress. The stress is older. It is the accumulated weight of two ownership transitions, a contracting American yard business, the rising tide of European competition, and the brutal economics of custom superyacht construction, where every vessel is, essentially a one-off project that can be canceled mid-build by a client whose net worth moved in the wrong direction. Broward Yachts continues to exist after 2008. The name survives. The Dania Beach Yard operates as a refit and service facility. The brand endures in the Yacht brokerage market where pre-owned Browards command genuine respect and trade for real money. But the new construction is gone. The building has stopped. The thing that made Broward, the act of taking a client's vision and turning it into 150 feet of aluminum that could cross an ocean, is over. What remains are the boats. They are everywhere. Charter the Mediterranean and you will find a Broward. Dock in Antigua and one will be next to you. That is the Broward legacy. Not a corporate headquarters, or a production line, or a trade show booth. A fleet of boats scattered across the world's oceans, built to a standard that the market eventually decided it could not afford to sustain. Frank Dennison bought a shipyard on his honeymoon because he saw something worth building. He spent 5 decades building it into the most important yacht yard in America. The boats outlasted the man, and the man outlasted the company, and the company left behind something that the Europeans never quite replicated, and the Americans never quite replaced. A Florida heritage marker now stands at the entrance to Safe Harbor Lauderdale Marine Center at 2020 SW 20th Street, on the exact ground where Frank and Gertrude Dennison once ran the most ambitious yacht yard in the country. It is the kind of recognition that comes after the thing being recognized is already gone. If you want to see what Broward Marine built, you don't go to a museum. You go to the water. You wait. Eventually, one comes in.